Elena had been waiting for this day for what felt like forever. She had spent months writing letters back and forth with Cole, a strong and quiet cowboy who lived far away in a small town in the American West. Every letter from him brought a mix of excitement and hope, and she often read them over and over, imagining the life she might have with someone who seemed to understand her so well. She had dreamed of leaving her old life behind, a life filled with struggles and constant reminders that she didn't quite fit in, and starting fresh somewhere new. She had saved every penny she could, arranged for travel, and finally, the day had come. The journey to Cole's town had been long and tiring. She had taken a train and then a rickety stagecoach over dusty roads. The scenery had been breathtaking at times, the mountains in the distance, wide open fields, and endless skies, but her mind had been filled with nerves. Would Cole like her in person as much as he did in letters? Would the townspeople accept her? These thoughts kept her awake during most of the trip. And by the time she arrived, her heart was pounding with both fear and anticipation. As the stagecoach pulled into the town, Elena peered out the window. She could see the small cluster of wooden buildings, the dirt streets, and a few people walking around, their boots kicking up dust. The town was quiet. Almost too quiet. And it made her stomach tighten. She had imagined a warm welcome, maybe smiles and waves. But the reality felt intimidating. When the coach came to a stop, she took a deep breath and stepped down, trying to steady herself. Her hands were a little shaky, but she held her chin up, reminding herself that she had made a brave choice to come here. Almost immediately, she noticed the stares. Some people whispered to each other, pointing at her as she walked across the street. A few even smirked openly. Elena felt a prickling in her skin, the uncomfortable heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. She had always struggled with her weight, and although she had learned to accept herself over the years, the sudden attention made her feel exposed, judged, and small. She quickened her pace, hoping to reach Cole before the feeling became unbearable. Cole had been waiting at the edge of town, near the wooden fence that bordered his property. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and his presence seemed to command respect without him saying a word. He had seen the people staring at Elena, and it made his jaw tighten. He didn't understand why anyone would be cruel to a stranger, especially someone so brave to start a new life on their own terms. When he saw Elena step off the stagecoach, he gave her a warm, genuine smile. And in that moment, she felt a small spark of relief. "Hello, Elena," he said, his voice calm but steady. "It's good to finally meet you." Elena's lips curved into a tentative smile. She had feared that meeting in person would be awkward, but Cole's kindness made her feel slightly more at ease. She walked towards him, each step carrying a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "It's good to meet you too, Cole," she replied softly. The townspeople continued to watch, some whispering behind their hands, but Elena tried to ignore them. She reminded herself that she hadn't come here to please strangers. She had come here for a chance at a new life. Cole noticed her discomfort and subtly guided her away from the curious onlookers, offering his arm in a gentle, protective manner. She accepted it, feeling a sense of security she hadn't experienced in a long time. As they walked together, Cole began showing her around the property, a modest home, a barn, and the open fields where he worked. Elena listened attentively, trying to remember everything. She asked questions, wanting to understand the life she was stepping into. And Cole answered patiently, explaining each task and each responsibility. Despite her nerves, she found herself starting to relax. There was a rhythm to life on the ranch, a rhythm that felt steady and reassuring. And for the first time since leaving her home, Elena felt a small sense of hope. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in shades of pink and orange, Cole and Elena sat on the porch. The air was warm, and a soft breeze rustled the leaves of the nearby trees. The townspeople had mostly gone home, leaving the street quiet. Elena took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering anxiety. "I won't lie," she said quietly. "I was afraid when I arrived. Some people, they were staring and whispering. It made me feel like I didn't belong." Cole nodded, understanding her feelings. People can be cruel when they see someone different, or someone they don't understand. But that doesn't define you, Elena. You're brave for coming here, and you've already done something many people could never do. His words were comforting. Elena felt a warmth in her chest, a reassurance that maybe, just maybe, she had made the right choice. She realized that she didn't need the approval of the townspeople. She only needed to know that she was valued by those who truly mattered. And in that moment, Cole's presence, his calm strength, and his unwavering kindness reminded her that she was not alone. Over the next few days, Elena began settling into her new life. She helped Cole with small chores around the house, learning how to cook and clean in ways that were new to her. She tried her hand at feeding the animals and gathering eggs from the chickens. It wasn't easy, and she sometimes felt clumsy. But Cole was patient, guiding her through each task without ever making her feel inadequate. Even with Cole's support, the whispers from the townspeople didn't stop entirely. Some continued to make remarks about her weight, while others simply avoided her. Elena tried to ignore them, focusing instead on the life she was building. She reminded herself that their opinions didn't matter, that she had left behind a life of judgment to find one of acceptance. One afternoon, as she helped Cole repair a fence, she felt the sting of judgment more acutely. A group of local women passed by, giggling and making comments she could barely hear. For a moment, her confidence wavered. She looked down at her hands, calloused and dusty, and felt a pang of self-doubt. Cole noticed her hesitation. He stopped hammering the fence and looked at her with a steady gaze. "Don't let them get to you," he said. "You're learning. You're trying. And that's what matters." Let their words slide off like water. Elena nodded, taking a deep breath. She appreciated his reassurance. But she also realized that building self-confidence was a journey she would have to walk herself. Cole could guide her, support her, and stand by her side. But the strength had to come from within. As days turned into weeks, Elena began finding small victories that gave her courage. She learned to ride a horse without fear. She discovered a love for tending to the garden, and she even started teaching herself new skills for managing the ranch. With each success, her confidence grew, and the mocking stares of the townspeople started to feel less intimidating. By the end of the first month, Elena was beginning to feel like she truly belonged, not because everyone in town accepted her, but because she was carving out a place where she was respected and appreciated. She had Cole, who believed in her, and the open fields and wide skies that seemed to promise endless possibilities. She realized that this was only the beginning of her journey, and though challenges lay ahead, she felt ready to face them with courage and determination. And so, Elena's first days in the town ended not with fear, but with hope. She had arrived carrying dreams, doubts, and fears. And though the town had tested her with its judgment, she had begun to find her own strength. In the quiet evenings, watching the sun set beside Cole, she understood that true acceptance and happiness would come from those who truly saw her heart, not her appearance. And with that understanding, she felt a small but steady flame of courage burning inside her, a flame that would guide her through the days to come. The days that followed Elena's arrival were filled with new experiences, small victories, and the quiet rhythm of life on the ranch. Each morning began with the soft light of dawn spilling over the fields, casting long shadows from the fences and the barns. Elena would wake early, sometimes before Cole, and take a moment to watch the sun rise. It was peaceful, a stark contrast to the anxious thoughts that had filled her mind during her journey. She felt a small sense of freedom here, a feeling that she hadn't experienced in years. Elena quickly learned that life on a ranch was not easy. Every task required effort, patience, and sometimes physical strength she didn't realize she possessed. She started with small chores, feeding the chickens, gathering eggs, and sweeping the floors of the house. Cole guided her gently, showing her how to move efficiently, how to handle the animals without startling them, and how to anticipate the needs of the ranch. At first, Elena struggled, dropping eggs or stumbling over uneven ground, but Cole never criticized her. Instead, he encouraged her, reminding her that learning something new took time, and that mistakes were a part of the process. Some days were more difficult than others, On hot afternoons, when the sun beat down relentlessly, Elena's body ached in ways she wasn't used to. Her arms became sore from lifting hay bales, her hands rough from handling tools, and her legs stiff from walking long distances across the fields. She sometimes wondered if she had made the right decision coming here, if she could truly adapt to this life. Yet, every evening, when she looked around at the work she had accomplished, the neatly fed animals, the repaired fences, the freshly cleaned house, she felt a quiet pride. She was learning, growing, and proving to herself that she could handle more than she had imagined. Despite these small victories, the whispers and sideways glances from the townspeople continued. Elena could feel their judgment even when she wasn't paying attention. At the market, a shopkeeper would make a pointed comment about her size. On the street, children would repeat teasing words they had overheard from adults. It stung, and there were times when Elena wanted to retreat into herself, to hide from the constant reminders that she was different. She found herself doubting her worth, wondering if she had made a mistake leaving her home. One afternoon, while she was helping Cole mend a broken fence near the edge of the property, the weight of it all became too much. She set down the hammer and sat on a hay bale, wiping the sweat from her brow. "Cole," she said quietly, almost to herself, "I don't know if I can do this. I feel like everyone is always judging me. Maybe I'm not cut out for this life." Cole stopped what he was doing and knelt beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Elena," he said gently, "I know it feels that way sometimes. People can be cruel, and their words can hurt more than we expect. But you have to remember something very important. You didn't come here to please them. You came here to build your life, your way, with someone who cares about you for who you are. And that's me. I see you. I see your strength, your courage, and your heart." Elena looked into Cole's eyes and felt a warmth she hadn't felt in a long time. His words weren't just comforting, they were grounding. She realized that she had been allowing the opinions of strangers to define her, when in truth, her worth was not determined by them. It was determined by her actions, her heart, and the courage it took to step into a life she had never known before. With renewed determination, Elena pushed herself to continue learning. She started helping Cole with larger tasks, feeding the cattle, repairing fences, and even riding horses across the fields. Each day, she felt stronger and more capable. She discovered muscles she hadn't known she had, and developed a sense of rhythm with the work. The physical labor, though exhausting, became a source of pride. She was no longer just surviving, she was thriving, slowly but surely. Still, the judgment from the townspeople lingered. One day, while she was at the market buying supplies, a group of local women began whispering and pointing. Elena could hear fragments of their words. "Too big. Doesn't belong here. Why would anyone marry her?" She felt a familiar pang of embarrassment and self-doubt, and her cheeks flushed. She was about to turn and leave when she felt a firm, steady hand on her arm. It was Cole. His presence beside her was reassuring, almost like a shield against the harsh words of others. "Don't listen to them," he said softly. "Their opinions don't matter. You are more than what they see on the outside. You are strong, capable, and brave. Remember why you are here, and hold on to that." Elena took a deep breath, feeling the tension in her body slowly release. She realized that Cole's belief in her was becoming her own belief. She didn't have to run from judgment anymore. She could face it, knowing that she had someone who truly valued her standing by her side. Over time, Elena began to notice small changes in herself. She moved with more confidence, spoke with more assurance, and even smiled at strangers instead of shrinking away. The work on the ranch became easier, the routines more natural. She discovered a love for the land, for the animals, and for the sense of purpose that each day brought. Life, though challenging, felt rewarding in a way she had never imagined. Cole, too, noticed the changes in her. He admired her determination, her willingness to learn, and the way she carried herself with quiet strength. He made a point to celebrate her victories, no matter how small. When she successfully rode a horse for the first time, he praised her perseverance. When she repaired a broken fence on her own, He nodded with pride. These moments, though simple, reinforced Elena's confidence and helped her feel like she truly belonged in this new life. Despite the growing bond between them, Elena still struggled with the lingering presence of the townspeople's judgment. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at the market, she confided in Cole once more. "I try not to care," she said. "But sometimes it feels like no matter what I do, they see only what they want to see. I feel like I'll never truly be accepted." Cole listened patiently, then took her hand in his. "Elena, you don't need everyone to accept you. What matters is that you accept yourself, and that the people who truly matter, those who love and respect you, see the real you. I see you, and I respect you. That's enough. That should be enough." His words resonated deeply with Elena. She realized that acceptance didn't come from others, it came from within. With Cole's support, she began to build a sense of inner strength that no judgment could shake. She started to focus less on the whispers of strangers and more on the life she was creating, the skills she was learning, and the relationship she was nurturing with Cole. As the weeks passed, Elena became more confident in her daily tasks. She learned to cook meals that were hearty and satisfying, to mend clothing, and to manage the animals with skill and care. She even began to enjoy the simple pleasures of ranch life. The smell of fresh hay, the sound of horses neighing in the morning, and the warmth of the sun on her face as she worked in the fields. Each day, she felt more at home, more capable, and more herself. By the end of the second month, Elena had made significant progress not just in learning the practical skills needed for ranch life, but in building her confidence and self-worth. She had discovered that she was stronger and more resilient than she had ever believed. And though the townspeople's judgment had not disappeared entirely, it no longer held power over her. She had Cole's support, her own growing confidence, and a life that was slowly becoming her own. Evenings on the ranch became moments of quiet reflection and joy. Elena and Cole would sit on the porch, watching the sun set over the fields. They would talk about their days, share stories, and sometimes sit in comfortable silence. In those moments, Elena felt a deep sense of peace, a feeling that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Elena knew that challenges still lay ahead. The town would not change overnight, and there would be days when the whispers and stares would return. But she also knew that she had the strength to face them, and that with Cole by her side, she could navigate whatever obstacles came her way. She had come here with hope, courage, and a dream of a better life, and she was finally beginning to see that dream take shape, piece by piece. And so, as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky and the ranch settled into quiet, Elena felt a sense of quiet determination. She had faced her fears, taken her first steps into a new life, and discovered a strength within herself that she had never known. The journey was far from over, but she was no longer afraid. She was ready to continue, to grow, and to embrace the life she had chosen, one day at a time, with courage, hope, and the unwavering support of Cole. As Elena continued to settle into her new life, she began to notice that the townspeople's reactions were not always subtle anymore. Some of the women, in particular, seemed to take pleasure in making her feel uncomfortable. They whispered loudly when she passed by, pointed at her, and sometimes even laughed outright. It was as if they were testing her, trying to see if she would break under the pressure. For a moment, Elena felt the old familiar sting of embarrassment. But she reminded herself of the strength she had been building over the past weeks. She had learned to stand taller, to keep her head high, and to focus on what truly mattered: her life with Cole and the new home she was creating. One bright afternoon, the tension reached a peak. The town was holding a community gathering in the small square near the general store. It was an event that happened every few weeks, where neighbors would meet, trade goods, and catch up on news. Elena had accompanied Cole, wanting to become part of the community and show that she was willing to participate in the town's life. She wore a simple dress, neatly pressed, and tried to smile as she greeted a few friendly faces. For a moment, she felt a flicker of hope that perhaps not everyone was unkind, but that hope quickly faded. As soon as she stepped closer to the crowd, a group of women who had already made her life difficult in town began to whisper loudly, ensuring that everyone around could hear. "Look at her," one said with a sneer. "She thinks she belongs here." Another laughed, pointing at Elena's dress. "She'll never fit in. No one like her ever does." Elena felt heat rise to her cheeks, her stomach twisting into knots. She wanted to disappear, to run away from the cruel words that seemed to echo through the square. Cole noticed immediately. He had been standing a few steps behind her, observing the situation with a steady, protective gaze. He saw the hurt in Elena's eyes, the way she tried to shrink into herself, and his jaw tightened. This was a man who usually spoke softly and calmly, but he had a line that could not be crossed. Seeing Elena hurt by the town's cruelty made that line sharp and clear. He stepped forward, placing himself slightly in front of her, a silent shield against the judgmental eyes around them. "Elena," Cole said quietly, "stand with me. Don't let them see you falter." His words were simple, but there was power behind them, a quiet authority that made people stop and take notice. One of the women, emboldened by the others, tried to continue her mockery. "Does he really want to be seen with someone like her? Surely he could do better," she said with a cruel laugh. Cole's eyes narrowed, and he took a firm step closer. "Enough," he said, his voice calm but strong, carrying across the square. The crowd fell silent, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Elena is brave. She left her home, traveled a long distance, and came here to start a new life with courage. That is more than any of you could claim. She deserves respect, not ridicule." There was a pause. The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy with truth. Some of the women looked down, embarrassed that they had been so cruel. Others shuffled their feet, unsure of how to respond. Elena felt her heart swell with a mix of gratitude and relief. She realized in that moment that she was not alone, that Cole was not just her partner in daily tasks, but someone who would stand up for her, someone who believed in her even when others did not. Encouraged by Cole's support, Elena took a deep breath and stepped forward slightly. She lifted her chin and met the eyes of the townspeople, no longer shrinking away. "I came here for a new life," she said quietly but clearly. "I am learning, I am trying, and I am not ashamed of who I am. I came here to be part of this community, and I will not let anyone make me feel unworthy." The square was quiet for a few moments, the townspeople absorbing her words. Some seemed genuinely surprised. They had expected fear, embarrassment, or retreat. But instead, they saw courage. It was a turning point not just for Elena, but for everyone watching. They realized that this woman, who had been mocked for her appearance, was strong, composed, and dignified. Cole moved closer, placing a reassuring hand on Elena's back. She felt a warmth spread through her, a mixture of pride and relief. She had found her voice, and with Cole beside her, it felt safe to use it. Together, they faced the town, not as victims, but as partners united by respect, trust, and a growing bond. After the confrontation, some townspeople began to whisper differently. It was no longer mockery, but curiosity, and perhaps a hint of respect. Children who had once repeated the cruel words they heard began to watch Elena with interest. Noticing the way she handled herself with grace, some adults shifted uncomfortably, realizing that their judgment had been harsh and unfair. Elena didn't expect everyone to change overnight, but she felt a shift in the energy of the town, a small but meaningful acknowledgement that she was part of this community now. In the days that followed, Elena noticed that interactions with the townspeople slowly became more neutral. Some even smiled and greeted her politely. It was not perfect acceptance, but it was a start. Elena focused on her life with Cole, continuing to learn the skills needed for ranch life, tending to the animals, cooking meals, and helping with chores. Each day brought a new challenge, a new opportunity to prove to herself that she was capable. Cole continued to be a steady presence in her life. He never let her forget her worth, and he encouraged her to embrace her strengths. One evening, after a long day of working with the cattle, he looked at her with pride. "You handled yourself well today," he said. "I am proud of you, Elena. You didn't let their words hurt you, and you stood tall. That takes courage, and you have it in abundance." Elena smiled, feeling the weight of the town's judgment lift just a little more. She realized that true strength wasn't about never feeling hurt, it was about continuing forward despite the hurt. She had begun to internalize this lesson, finding resilience she hadn't known she possessed. As the weeks passed, Elena's confidence grew. She became more skilled in handling the animals, repairing fences, and managing household tasks. She even started to teach herself small improvements, finding better ways to organize supplies, care for the animals, and make life on the ranch more efficient. Cole admired her determination and often praised her for her ingenuity and hard work. One afternoon, while riding across the fields with Cole, Elena laughed freely, for the first time in what felt like months. The wind rushed past her face, and the sun warmed her skin. She realized that she was not just surviving in this new life, she was thriving. The judgment of the townspeople no longer had the power to define her. She had found her place, her strength, and the unwavering support of someone who truly cared. That evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Elena and Cole sat on the porch, watching the animals settle down for the night. The quiet was comforting, a contrast to the tension she had felt during the town gathering. She leaned against Cole, feeling safe, valued, and loved. "I never thought I could feel this way in a place like this," she said softly. "I was so afraid of what people would think. But now I feel like I belong. Not because they accept me, but because I know who I am, and I have you by my side." Cole smiled, resting his arm around her shoulders. "That's right, Elena. You belong because of your courage, your heart, and the life you're building. No one else's opinion can take that away from you. And I will always stand with you, no matter what." Elena felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from the depth of gratitude and relief she felt. She had faced the harsh judgment of others, spoken her truth, and discovered the strength to stand tall. With Cole beside her, she knew she could face any challenge the future held. And so, the turning point had come. Elena was no longer just the woman mocked for her weight or judged by strangers. She was a brave, capable, and resilient woman, finding her voice and place in a new world. With Cole's unwavering support, she was ready to face whatever came next, confident in her worth and in the life they were building together. The town had witnessed a lesson in courage and respect that day, one that would not soon be forgotten. And Elena, standing beside Cole, knew that no matter what challenges remained, she had the strength to overcome them, the courage to grow, and the love to sustain her through every trial. Life on the ranch settled into a new rhythm after the incident at the town gathering. Elena no longer felt the weight of the whispers pressing down on her shoulders as heavily as before. She had discovered a confidence that came not from the approval of strangers, but from within herself and from the unwavering support of Cole. Every morning she woke to the sound of roosters crowing and the gentle warmth of the sun spilling across the fields, and she felt grateful for the life she was building. The townspeople, too, began to see Elena differently. It wasn't that everyone immediately stopped judging her, but the harshness that had once been so obvious began to fade. Some neighbors, who had once whispered behind their hands, now greeted her with polite smiles. Children began to play near the barn while she worked, curious about the woman who had so calmly stood her ground at the gathering. Even those who had mocked her the most seemed hesitant to do so again. Elena could feel the subtle shift in energy, a quiet acknowledgement that she had earned her place in the community through courage, determination, and grace. Elena's days were now filled with meaningful work. She tended to the animals with growing skill, learning to recognize their needs and moods. She cleaned the house with care, prepared meals that were hearty and nourishing, and even started experimenting with gardening. The garden became a place of pride for her, a symbol of growth and patience. Every seed planted and every plant nurtured reminded her that life, like the garden, took time, effort, and belief in the possibility of good things growing from small beginnings. Cole watched her quietly, always impressed by her perseverance. He admired how she had transformed the challenges she faced into opportunities to learn and grow. He often paused during the day just to observe her, noting how she moved with confidence, how she laughed freely now, and how she had begun to embrace life with a joy that had been hidden before. He never doubted that he had chosen the right person to share his life with. One afternoon, as they were repairing a section of fence near the pasture, Cole paused and looked at Elena with a smile. "You've come a long way," he said. "I see how much stronger and more confident you've become. You're handling this life like you were born for it." Elena wiped the sweat from her brow and smiled back. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You've always believed in me, even when I doubted myself." Cole shook his head gently. "I only reminded you of what was already inside you. You have always had the strength. You just needed to see it for yourself." It was a quiet moment, simple but filled with meaning. Elena realized that life with Cole was not just about work or survival. It was about partnership, respect, and shared courage. Together, they faced challenges, celebrated small victories, and found joy in the ordinary moments that made life so rich. As the weeks turned into months, Elena became more comfortable engaging with the townspeople. She attended small gatherings, helped at community events, and even began sharing her own knowledge and skills with others. Her confidence radiated in a way that could not be ignored. People began to see her for who she truly was, a kind, intelligent, and capable woman. Those who had once mocked her now approached her with curiosity, sometimes even seeking her advice on various matters related to the ranch or household tasks. Elena discovered that acceptance did not come all at once. It was a gradual process, built on consistent actions, patience, and the quiet demonstration of strength and character. She learned to forgive the past cruelty, not because it was deserved, but because holding on to resentment would only weigh her down. Each act of kindness she offered, each skill she demonstrated, helped reshape the perception of her within the town. Her relationship with Cole deepened as well. They spent long evenings together on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, talking about their hopes, dreams, and the future they were building. There was a comfort in these moments, a sense of peace that neither had experienced before. Cole admired her courage, and Elena cherished his unwavering support. They had become a team in the truest sense, partners who faced life's challenges together, without fear or hesitation. One particularly quiet evening, as the sky turned shades of deep orange and purple, Elena reflected on how far she had come. She remembered the fear and self-doubt she had felt when she first arrived, the whispers, the stares, the constant judgment. Now, she stood tall, her heart filled with pride and gratitude. She had survived the challenges, grown stronger, and found a home in both the town and in Cole's heart. The sense of belonging she felt was not superficial. It was not about being liked by everyone, but about knowing her worth and embracing it fully. She had learned that true acceptance begins within, and that the opinions of those who fail to see the good in others are not worth carrying. This understanding gave her a freedom she had never experienced before. A freedom to live authentically, to love, and to dream. Cole, sensing her quiet reflection, took her hand and squeezed it gently. "You've changed this place," he said softly. "Not by fighting them or proving them wrong, but by being yourself. People see your strength and kindness now, and they can't help but respect it." Elena smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. She realized that she had not only found a partner in Cole, but also a partner in herself, the strength, courage, and determination that had carried her through every challenge. She understood that life would always have difficulties, but with belief in herself and the support of those who truly cared, she could face anything. In the following months, Elena continued to flourish. She helped Cole with larger projects, from repairing barns to planting new fields. She welcomed visitors to the ranch with warmth, sharing meals and stories, and slowly became an integral part of the community. Even those who had once mocked her began to see her as an example of courage and resilience. Children admired her kindness, neighbors sought her advice, and the town gradually came to accept her presence not as an outsider, but as a valued member of the community. Elena's journey was also marked by small, personal victories that brought her joy. She learned to ride horses with confidence, handle livestock with skill, and even create small improvements around the ranch that made life easier for both her and Cole. Every task she completed reinforced her sense of capability, reminding her that she was not defined by her past or by the judgments of others. She had grown into a confident, self-assured woman, ready to embrace whatever life offered. Through it all, the bond between Elena and Cole deepened. They shared laughter, quiet moments, and the satisfaction of hard work well done. They celebrated victories, comforted each other in moments of doubt, and built a life rooted in mutual respect and love. Elena realized that this partnership was more than she had ever dreamed of when she first embarked on her journey. It was a partnership based not just on affection, but on trust, respect, and unwavering support. One day, as they stood together overlooking the vast fields, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had arrived as a stranger, uncertain and anxious, burdened by fear of judgment and self-doubt. She had faced ridicule, overcome challenges, and discovered a strength she had not known existed. And through it all, she had found love, acceptance, and a sense of belonging that could not be taken away. Elena turned to Cole and smiled, feeling a deep sense of peace. "I never imagined life could be like this," she said softly. "I was afraid when I first came here, but now I feel like I belong. Not because everyone accepts me, but because I know who I am, and I have you by my side." Cole smiled back, his eyes filled with warmth. "You belong because of your courage, your heart, and the life you're building, and I will always be here, standing beside you, no matter what." Together, they watched the sun set over the horizon, feeling a quiet joy that came from knowing they had faced challenges, grown stronger, and found a home in each other and in the life they were creating. The town had begun to accept Elena, not because they were forced to, but because they had witnessed her strength and character. Elena had learned that true acceptance comes from self-belief, courage, and the support of those who truly care. She had discovered her own strength and resilience, found love in a partner who respected and valued her, and gradually won the respect of a community that once doubted her. And so, the story of Elena and Cole reached a place of quiet triumph. She was no longer the woman mocked for her appearance. She was a confident, capable, and respected member of the town. She had found happiness, belonging, and love, not through the approval of others, but through courage, perseverance, and the unwavering support of someone who saw her true worth. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Elena felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. She had arrived at the town full of uncertainty and fear, but she had carved out a life filled with love, respect, and accomplishment. With Cole by her side and the lessons she had learned about courage and self-worth, she knew that whatever challenges came next, she could face them with strength, confidence, and grace. Her journey had been difficult, but it had led her to a place of joy, belonging, and inner strength. And as she leaned against Cole, feeling the warmth of his presence and the comfort of their shared life, Elena knew that she had truly found her home, not just in the town, but within herself.